Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. My guest this week is Bob Frohlich. Bob is the Fisheries Development Supervisor at Game and Fish. Basically, he's in charge of boat ramp development. We're going to talk about lake and river access this year. Bob, let's start with an area that already has open water and actually quite a bit of fishing activity, Lake Oahe and the Missouri River.
Yeah, this year was, as everybody knows, it was a mild winter. We had a very early ice out on the Missouri River out here, and as far as I can tell, I mean, from my experience, it was probably one of the earliest springs for anglers getting out on the river. Mid-February they were out already.
Sure.
And they had some pretty good luck early, and access was good. And
other than some crowded ramps at times, do you have any access problems on the river?
We really don't right now. Long term, we probably will. The flood of 2011 caused some bed degradation in the river, about 2 feet. And so the bottom end of our boat ramps, especially in the Bismarck-Mandan area, have got about 2 feet less water on the bottom end of them now at the same river stage as they did pre-flood. And so, when we go into periods of low water in the future, that will cause problems, and boaters will be forced to, go to other ramps, which will again cause more congestion.
Sure. Did you add any new ramps, or do you have plans to add any new ramps in the near future?
No, we haven't added any new ramps, and we really aren't looking to add any new ramps. We're pretty good the way we are. We've got them strategically located. We've got about a dozen ramps from the Garrison Tail Race down to Lake Oahe in that stretch. We've got like 36 ramps up on Sakakawea. And the one gap might be on the Mandan side from the Cross Ranch Sanger boat ramp down to Little Heart. There's an area in there that doesn't have access, and we get asked all the time about it, but it's just tough. There's private land and not any suitable sites. So
sure. Fair question. What does it take to add a new ramp?
I always say that building the ramp is the easy part. The actual construction is the easy part. It's site identification. Getting a place, first of all, that has a willing landowner, or you have the ownership of that site, and then also the site has to have suitable access, and that means you've got to have the proper slope and water depth. And then you've got a lot of permitting that goes along with that, and just some different approvals, and a bunch of different agencies have to sign off on it first. So,
you guys have added a number of these beautiful cleaning stations with the big grinders and things, and water, and they're just great. It takes a little bit to build those too.
It does, and we really look at those closely before we get involved in cost share on one of those. We have critique them pretty close. Not only the initial cost of the station, they can be anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000 to build one, but it's after, the maintenance, keeping that station up and running, keeping it clean, that's really expensive. To do it right, you have to have a local buy-in, a local commitment that they're going to go out there and that they're going to maintain that station and keep it sanitary and clean.
No.
Well, the local entity, that would be like the local park board, the water board, maybe a club. In a few cases, we've got like a Seneca gas station maybe up at Washburn. We've got one, and they're the local entity that takes care of it for us.
Let's move on to lakes around the state, Bob. Game and Fish manages a lot more fishing waters now than we did, say, 10 or 15 years ago. And of course, we need access to those. How are you going about building ramps on some of these smaller lakes?
We've got this, right now we're sitting at about 3 times as many boat ramps as we did 20, 25 years ago. We're up to over 400, probably pushing 425 lakes that have fisheries in them. And there is a fair number of those that we would like to see access on. And again, that gets back to that same thing I mentioned earlier, that you got to have 2 main ingredients. You got to have a willing landowner or property ownership, and then you've got to have a suitable site. And putting those two together can be tough. A lot of times we have a landowner that's willing to give us an area, but the site isn't suitable. It's too flat or too deep, and vice versa. But we're looking and trying to secure easements where we can, and when we do, we pop in a ramp here and there. So
before long, we should have suitable access to most every body of water that we can.
Yeah, I'm hoping, we're in a wet cycle now yet, and those 425 lakes, a bunch of those will slowly disappear as we go back into a drought or as we lose water. Yeah, we're actively pursuing those.
A couple of places where the fishing isn't going to go away for a long time: Lake Sakakawea, Devil's Lake. Access going to be good for a while?
It is. We're in pretty good shape, especially on Sakakawea and the entire Missouri River system. We've got good access on those. We went through the high and low water periods on the Missouri River system, and so over the last 20, 30 years, we've developed, a pretty good inventory of high water main and low water boat ramps, and so whatever the lake level is at, we've got access. Devil's Lake is a little different animal. We had good access for the last 2-3 years, but now last year we saw the lake drop about 1.5 feet or 2, and that did create problems for us up there. We were up there last fall late and worked on 2 boat ramps, and we foresee that we're going to be back up there again this year doing the same thing. So, and as the lake drops, it's going to cause us problems. We currently have 10 ramps on Devil's Lake. 2 of them are going to marginal, they potentially be lost if the lake goes down again, and then a couple more as the lake continues to go down.
Going to be another busy summer.
It will be, for sure.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Tom.
If you're wondering if there's a boat ramp on a lake near you, you can find a complete list of available boating access points in the March-April Special Fishing edition of North Dakota Outdoors magazine. There is a complete list of every lake in the state, if the water body has fish in it and what species, if it has a boat ramp. This information is also available on the Game and Fish website at gf.nd.gov. Plus, the chances are there's also a topographical map of a lake that you plan to fish. For Bob Frohlich and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.